In 1607, a group of men sailed into the unknown, carrying dreams of gold, glory, and a new world. But what they found was starvation, betrayal, war, and survival against impossible odds. This is the untold story of Jamestown, the fragile colony that almost vanished, and yet became the birthplace of what would one day become the United States of America. And here's the shocking truth: most of the settlers never planned to survive. They planned to get rich or de-entering. By the early 1600s, Europe was changing. Empires were expanding, and the Atlantic Ocean was no longer a barrier, it was a highway to power. Spain had conquered massive territories in the Americas, bringing back unimaginable wealth. England, however, was falling behind. Queen Elizabeth I had died, and King James I ruled England. The crown needed money, prestige, and influence. Investors and nobles dreamed of a permanent English presence in the New World. But unlike Spain, England had no massive empire yet. So a group of wealthy investors formed the Virginia Company of London, a private corporation with one goal: establish a profitable colony in North America. They promised settlers riches, land, and opportunity. But they didn't promise safety. In December 1606, 3 small ships left England: the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery. On board were 104 men and boys, no women, no families, just adventurers, laborers, gentlemen, and soldiers. Many were not farmers or builders. Some were nobles who had never worked with their hands. They believed the New World would make them rich instantly. The journey took 4 months, across storms, disease, and hunger. Men fought. Supplies ran low. Morale collapsed. By the time they reached the Chesapeake Bay in April 1607, many were exhausted, sick, and already questioning whether this journey was a mistake. But then, dense forests, wide rivers, endless resources. They believed they had found paradise. They named their settlement Jamestown, after King James, but paradise was about to turn into a nightmare. The settlers chose a swampy peninsula along the James River. It seemed perfect. Easy to defend, deep water for ships, and no visible native villages nearby. But the land was deadly. The water was salty and polluted. Mosquitoes spread malaria. The soil was poor for farming. They built a wooden fort and small huts, but within weeks, disease spread. Food ran out. Leadership collapsed. Then conflict erupted. The settlers had arrived in the territory of the Powhatan Confederacy, a powerful alliance of Native American tribes, led by Chief. At first, the Powhatan people traded food with the English. But tensions grew. Misunderstandings turned into violence. Some settlers believed the natives were inferior. The natives believed the English were invaders, and fear grew on both sides. Among the settlers was Captain John Smith, a soldier, explorer, and controversial leader. Smith believed discipline was the only way to survive. He famously declared, "He who shall not work shall not eat." This rule saved the colony, but also made him enemies. Smith negotiated with the Powhatan, traded for food, and explored the region. He mapped rivers, documented tribes, and kept the settlers alive. Then came the legendary story of Pocahontas, Chief Powhatan's daughter. According to Smith, he was captured by the Powhatan and about to be executed when Pocahontas saved his life. Historians debate this story. Was it true, or was it propaganda to make Smith a hero? But one thing is certain: Pocahontas became a symbol of connection between two worlds. Yet peace was fragile. In 1609, disaster struck. A supply fleet from England was destroyed by a hurricane. Jamestown was left isolated. Winter arrived. Food disappeared. Disease spread. This period became known as the starving time. Of the 500 settlers, only 60 survived. People ate horses, dogs, rats, leather boots, and evidence suggests some even turned to cannibalism. Bodies were dug up from graves. Human bones show cut marks from knives. Jamestown was collapsing. In 1610, ships arrived with supplies and new settlers. The survivors were so desperate they planned to abandon Jamestown, but as they sailed away, they encountered a fleet bringing reinforcements and a new governor. Jamestown was saved at the last moment. Slowly, the colony rebuilt, and then something changed everything. In 1612, a settler named John Rolfe experimented with tobacco. Native tobacco was harsh. Rolfe imported a sweeter Caribbean strain. It became a sensation in Europe. Tobacco turned Jamestown into a profitable colony. Land was cleared. Plantations expanded. Investors poured money into Virginia. Jamestown was no longer just surviving, it was booming. But this success came with a dark cost. In 1619, a Dutch ship arrived with 20 Africans. They were the first recorded Africans in English North America. At first, some were treated as indentured servants, but over time slavery became permanent and hereditary. Jamestown's tobacco economy fueled the growth of slavery in America. This moment marked the beginning of a system that would shape history for centuries. Also in 1619, something extraordinary happened. Jamestown established the House of Burgesses, the first elected legislative assembly in English America. For the first time, settlers could vote on local laws. It was the seed of American democracy. The idea that people could govern themselves began here inside a struggling colony in the wilderness. As Jamestown expanded, conflict with Native Americans intensified. Settlers took land. Tribes resisted. Wars erupted in 1622 and 1644, devastating both sides. The Powhatan Confederacy weakened. English control expanded. Jamestown became the center of a growing English presence in North America. But it was built on conquest, displacement, and survival. Jamestown was not the first European colony in America, but it was the first permanent English colony. From Jamestown came the expansion of English language and culture, the foundation of American democracy, the growth of plantation economy, the tragic system of slavery, the beginning of modern American society. It was a story of ambition, suffering, courage, and moral contradictions. Jamestown began as a desperate gamble. Most settlers died. Many dreams collapsed. Yet, from hunger, conflict, and hope, a nation was born. The men who arrived in 1607 could never have imagined the future. A superpower, millions of people, and a nation that would shape the world. Jamestown was not just a colony. It was the spark that ignited American history. And its story reminds us of a powerful truth. Empires are not born in comfort. Nations rise from struggle, sacrifice, and human ambition. So the next time you hear the word America, remember Jamestown, a fragile wooden fort in the wilderness where the modern world quietly began.